NXT in Your House is June 7th, and honestly, I'm very surprised by this. The In Your House name, for those that aren't aware, was very monumental. It was from the I guess 95 WWF, when business wasn't as what it is today. It was actually probably the worst it was in a very long time. From 95 to 99, there would be several In Your House pay-per-views, kind of like not counting the big four, like around the big four, obviously WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and the Royal Rumble, and then King of the Ring would be there every once in a while. But the In Your House pay-per-views would be, I guess, what we call our B pay-per-views now, or maybe even our B and C pay-per-views, for what used to be in the brand split for the longest time. That's probably the best thing I can compare it to. But the In Your House name, I think, was after St. Valentine's Day Massacre, they stopped using it. But I believe there was one after that was going to be an In Your House event, but just was changed to whatever the name was. I don't remember exactly what that was. But it's been 25 years since the In Your House tradition kind of started. And, of course, we'll have more matches probably announced tonight on NXT with the Wednesday Night War going on. But let's go over the current card right now in no particular order for these matches, by the way. Just kind of lined them up randomly here. First off, Finn Balor versus Damian Priest. Over the past few weeks, Damian Priest has been revealed as the attacker of Finn Balor. Over maybe a month or two ago, Balor was supposed to have a match with Velveteen Dream, a number contendership match for the NXT title. That obviously didn't happen. Balor was attacked. Balor was taken out and was not able to compete. We didn't know who the attacker was until Priest, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, said he was the man that attacked him. And honestly, this goes great with his character. If he wants to live forever like he says he does, he wants to live in infamy like he says he does, then he needs to take out someone like a Finn Balor. And with the potential of NXT call-ups, we don't see it as much due to NXT basically becoming a main roster brand with the USA deal, or at least the feel of it. You don't see a lot of people called up. In fact, the last call-up I remember was, in fact, the what was it? And I'm not counting the people that have gone to NXT and have been on the main roster as enhancement talent. I'm not counting them, and I'm not counting the crowds recently either. I'd be counting maybe something like the Forgotten Sons as a call-up, especially with the Revival being taken out of the picture and being released. They need to be replaced, and you need a workhorse team like the Forgotten Sons. And some people don't see them as a workhorse team, but compared to what you have at the time, it makes sense. And we have to think of, again, I don't like saying this, but we have to think of NXT as developmental. Even though it's going head-to-head with AEW every week, even though it's being treated as a main roster brand, you have to think in the long term, okay, who's getting called up? Who could be called up? Who's staying here because they're the champion? Or are they leaving, or are they dropping the belt soon? So many questions, so little time to kind of go through them and articulate them. But if someone was to go in this match, I doubt it'll happen because Balor seems happy in NXT. And I feel this will go along for a while. So I'm going to say Priest wins it, and they keep it going maybe towards the end of the year. Next up, Charlotte Flair defends the NXT Women's Championship against the former champion Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. Io was supposed to have a title match with Charlotte. She won a ladder match to get that title shot. It was ended when Charlotte used a kendo stick to retain her title by disqualification. Rhea Ripley returned, and the three of them have been going at it for a while. Of course, Rhea has been shown on the main roster just based on the WrestleMania feud with Charlotte. But again, if you were to pick somebody to win this match, I hate to say it, but it's Charlotte. She just won the title. It makes no sense for her to lose the title other than to just make her go back to Raw. And with this brand, the brand Invitational, We could see her still come to NXT every once in a while. We don't know. But I would not be surprised if Rhea won the belt back or Io somehow picked up the win. I would not be surprised at all, but I'm going to pick Charlotte. And finally, Tommaso Ciampa versus Karrion Kross with Scarlett Bordeaux. And they have been an interesting dynamic at NXT for the past few months. We didn't know who they were at first. There was something of like a clock on the wall. Various images flashed several times to where that minute hand kept getting closer and closer to that 12 o'clock position. And when it did, we had Karrion Kross, formerly Killer Kross, but, you know, it's PG era, so we can't really have him named Killer. So you have to have him Karrion Kross. And you think about it, Karrion's kind of more like, I wouldn't say like a vulture, like the word carrion would be like some kind of fucking, like, not like a vulture, but in that same kind of thing where it preys on the dead, where it preys on things and it uses those carcasses for something, uses the meat on there for something, I don't really know how you describe it, but it's an interesting name for an interesting individual. And of course, Scarlett, probably the hottest thing going on today in wrestling right now. Ever since being in Impact Wrestling, really showed what she could do. But, you know, we may not see that for a while. We may just see her as this valet for Karrion Kross. We may just see her like that. But I feel like we could have kind of a Mark Marrow Sable comparison here. And I don't like using that comparison. But I feel like Scarlett's the bigger star. If we're looking realistically, Karrion Kross has kind of been mid-card for life, honestly, for most promotions. Not that he doesn't deserve to be a main eventer. It's just that some promotions just see him as middle of the road. And there's nothing wrong with being middle of the road. But you have this match with Tommaso Ciampa that could really elevate him to that main event status, that main level status that he honestly deserves. I'm going to pick Kross to win it. It's his TakeOver debut. It's his In Your House debut, for that matter. All of these people are in their In Your House debut, but still, it makes more sense for someone that's been dominant like Karrion Kross has been to destroy a former NXT champion and solidify his place on the brand. And then Ciampa could go to the main roster and do whatever. I don't see Ciampa going to the main roster, but again, out of all of these people, I could see Ciampa honestly go to the main roster. Out of all of them, it's a safe bet for me. With that said, In Your House is June 7th, and we'll have more matches tonight, probably announced on NXT tonight, but we'll just see what happens from here.